1, 2, 3. Excellent. Good morning, Kahal Kadosh. Shavua Tov Umevorach to everybody. Today, the 9th day of Sivan, May 29th. Today's class, graciously sponsored by Ricardo Jamal, La'ilui Nishmat, his father, Jamil Ben Nisha, Alav Shalom. Additionally, today's class, sponsored by the Alfasi and Warman family, La'ilui Nishmat, their beloved father, Leon Ben Rahel Alav Shalom. Additionally, today's class dedicated Le'ilui Nishmat Shimon Ben Sulika Alav Shalom and Hamavdil. Today's class sponsored by Yaakov Cohen for the Refuah Shelema of Michelle Lazimi Meir Ben Zohara. May HaKadosh Baruch Hu give him a Refuah Shelema among all of the Holim of Am Israel. Amen. So, as I said yesterday, today, after a long break, we are going to resume some of the beautiful messages of the Chok Israel. We stopped around Pesach time, then we had the Omer, Shabuot, so I believe that temporarily we are able to go back and to learn the beautiful lessons that the Gemara and the Zohar of today will bring down. So we know that Perashat Naso is always read after the Yom Tov of Shavuot. And Perashat Naso is the longest Perasha, as the Kahal Kadosh knows, from the entire Sefer Torah. It contains 176 Pesukim, similar to chapter 119 of Tehillim and Gemara Baba Batra. And one of the reasons the lineup of the Perashiot falls in around the time of Shavuot is to tell us that we're not tired of the Torah, Haz v'Shalom. Okay? That's one basic answer. But there are a lot of interesting topics that Perashat Naso brings down. One of them will be the topic of the Sotah, the topic of the Nazir, the offering of the Mishkan, of the inauguration of the Mishkan, etc. So, the Zohar actually touches on a very interesting topic about Yitro, the father-in-law of Moshe Rabbeinu. We spoke about him in the past. Yitro has a perasha for himself. The famous perasha that we read in Shavuot, it comes from Perashat Yitro. And many interesting lessons the Torah teaches us about Yitro. So the Zohar Kadosh brings a very interesting concept. Yitro, in his younger years, was an individual that was heavily involved in Avodah Zara. It's a known fact. Yitro search and research the essence of godliness in the world. So even though usually being involved with idolatry is seen as something negative and forbidden and bad, and we're not saying that what he did wasn't proper, but there is a difference when a person does it as a way of life or a person does it to seek the truth. And that's why, if you remember in Perashah, in Sefer Shemot, the Pasuk says, Ata yadati ki gadol Hashem mikol ha'elokim. Now I know that your God is greater than all the gods of the world. Now, what is a competition? First position, second position, what is this? So Yitro says, look at this fascinating way of God dealing with situations. This is found in when the Torah talks about Vayishma Yitro. Yitro heard. And Rashi says, what did Yitro heard? Kiryat Yamsuf, the drowning of the Egyptians in the Yamsuf, and the war of Amalek. That there were two extreme scenarios. I will explain each one, God willing. I ask you a question. Thank you so much. Was Yitro the only person who heard of these historical events? The entire world was aware of the splitting of the Red Sea. How every single water in the world split. Every single water. That's why the pasuk says, "Vayasho vayam leetano, al tikre etano elatenao." Every single water got split, but there was one person who reacted. Yitro. Vayishma. Yitro heard and executed. What did he do? He gave up all his idolatry ways and becomes a convert. That is the opening topic of the Zohar of today. How Yitro was able to become a convert from zero to a tzaddik that became the father-in-law of Moshe Rabbeinu. That's the Torah. Vayishma Yitro, Kohen Midian Hoten Moshe. Imagine yourself, somebody asks you, who is your father-in-law? Oh, my father-in-law, the Pope. Can you imagine answering that? And not because he's from Argentina. I'm Avdil. Okay? You understand? So, let me explain a couple of ideas. The life of Yitro actually began before the giving of the Torah. We have discussed this in the past, and I'm going to give you a lot of background information because I'm going to be moving to an area that I mentioned a few weeks ago, that when the right time comes, I will speak about it. And I believe that today is the day. Just to understand a bit who really Yitro was. And it's important to pay attention because the Zohar explains already that Yitro had many different names. Like Moshe Rabbeinu had 10 names, Yitro had 7 names. Now, we'll explain the names in a moment. Yitro debut in Jewish history actually took place in the beginning of Sefer Shemot, when Paro wants to get rid of the Jewish people, but he needs an advice how to do it. And we know this. Yitro had 3 advisors, Bilaam, right, Iyov, and Yitro. Each one of them was asked the same question. What to do with the Jewish people? The Jewish people are flourishing. The Jewish people are multiplying. If the Jewish people decide to create a civil war inside of Egypt, we're going to lose. Because the Jewish people are multiplying 6-1. Do the numbers. 6-1. What Yitro says, Mehila, what Bilam says, get rid of them. What Iyov said, nothing. He remained parv. I don't know. What Yitro said, how can you do something like that? Thanks to Yaakov, right? And Yosef, Egypt became somebody in the world. Thanks to Yaakov Avinu arrivals to Egypt, the famine stopped. But in the 2 years of famine, Yosef amassed a tremendous amount of wealth for the Egyptians and Paro. So Yitro says, how can you be a kafui tova? How can you be an ingrate? Obviously, nobody liked that approach, and Yitro became a fugitive. And he escaped the palace of Paro. This is known Midrashim. And he arrived to the city of Midian. But when he escaped, he didn't leave empty-handed. He took with him what? The mate, the stick, that Moshe Rabbeinu eventually will utilize for the Makot that contain Desach, Adash, Be'ahav. This Mate, according to the tradition, goes all the way up to Adam Arishon. Okay? So now we see suddenly Adam Arishon appears in the movie. But I'm going to tell you one more thing. The Zohar Kadosh writes an interesting pasuk from the book of the Shofetim, the book of Judges. Behever Hakeni. One of the names of Yitro was Hever. Another one was Yeter. Another one was Yitro. Another one was Hobab. Another one was Keni. Not Kenny. Keni. It's a difference. Why was it called Keni? Nifrad Mikain. He was a descendant of Cain. Mibene Hobab Hoten Moshe. From the sons of Hobab, the father-in-law of Moshe Rabbeinu. Now, Rabbeinu Ha'ari brings an interesting explanation, and the Gemara, or actually the Zohar, in this week's Perashah writes, Sheshoresh Nishmat Yitro Hayeta Mikain. Yitro was an offspring of the neshama of Cain. So far, I'm going to start writing. I'm going to write in cursive Hebrew, okay? Yitro, Cain. Cain had a brother. What was his name? Thank God that the Kahal knows the answer. Who was the clone of the Neshama of Hevel? Moshe Rabbeinu. The He of Hevel in the name of Moshe, the He in the name of Moshe is for Hevel. So guess what, says Rabbeinu Ari? Now, when we had round one, Cain and Hevel, we have now round two, Yitro and Moshe. But now, Yitro changes the music. In the beginning, what Cain did, killed his brother. What prompted Hevel being killed by Cain? There was an argument. And there are different levels of arguments that Cain and Hevel had. Argument number one, Hevel, if we remember that from Bereshit, was born with two sisters. Cain is born with one sister. What Cain says, I'm the firstborn. I'm entitled to have double. That's the halakha. The firstborn gets double. Why does the firstborn gets double? Did you ever ask yourself? I'll tell you why. Because the parents learn how to be parents through the firstborn. So the firstborn pays the price in many areas. The way you raise child number one is not the way you raise child number two. Child number one, you learn. You're in training. Chaftona, shahata, the belt, patch. Whatever you give, you learn. Now comes son number two. No. I have to change the music. That's one of the reasons why the firstborn gets double. Because he was the teacher of his parents of how to become a parent. You like it? You like it? Unbelievable. Until I saw this in writing, I didn't believe it. Unbelievable. So that was. So what Hevel says, استنى شوية. the one conceived first comes out last. So you came out first. That's why you have only one. I was conceived first. I'm the Bechor. And in the Torah, by the way, we have this situation where Yaakov and Esav, Perez and Zerah. That's why the nurse that was helping Tamar giving birth, what did she do? The first time one of the babies stick the hand out, Vaikshor al yado shanik, I think the pasuk says, he tied a string, red string, to know this Zeh Yatza Rishona. This came out first. So everything is written in the Torah. You just need to find it. Now, so what happens? Cain kills Hevel. Good. Now comes Yitro. Yitro needs to do teshuvah. Because now, if Cain kills Hevel, and Hevel is Moshe Rabbeinu, Cain needs to do teshuvah. Hence the name of Yitro is Keni. Keni is what? Mikain. From Cain. So remember the jealousy or the argument about the extra sister? What does Yitro does to Moshe Rabbeinu? Tells Moshe, take my daughter Tzipporah as a wife. Now Cain remedies the jealousy against Hevel by giving Tzipporah to Moshe as a wife. Follow so far? Now Cain feels redeemed through Yitro. Look, I did teshuvah. I gave my daughter to Moshe Rabbeinu. But then there was another argument. And this argument, it's interesting. One of the arguments between Cain and Hevel was not only about the extra girl, it was about neither about the sacrifice. Because Cain really is the one who initiated the concept of sacrifices. The one who initiated the sacrifice aspect was Cain. Hevel followed. But because Hevel had Yirat Shamayim and understood the essence of godliness, the pasuk says, Hevel offered the best. Cain says, hold on a minute. Why should I offer the best if God is invisible? God doesn't need to have an Aberdeen Angus type of animal. I can give him linen. Hence, Sha'atnes. The Sha'atnes source in history was the Korban of Cain and Hevel. Hevel offered the wool, the sheep. That's what the pasuk says. The sheep. And what Cain offered? Linen. Hence, Sha'atnes. I told you to stick around. You wanted to leave Memorial Day to watch the airplanes. The show starts later. Baruch. I don't know, that was somebody told me. Me neither. Don't worry about it. Believe me. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shakol niyeh v'tbaro. Although I must say that the prohibition the prohibition of wearing sha'atnes is a biblical commandment. But the original drama of sha'atnes was Cain and Hevel. And that's why Kohanim in the Bet HaMikdash were allowed to wear sha'atnes. How come? Excellent question. I give you the answer. Very simple. It was in the Bet HaMikdash only. You were protected by HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That's number one. Outside of the Bet HaMikdash, the Kohanim were not allowed to wear shatnez. Only inside of the Bet HaMikdash. You got God's approval. Number one. Number two, don't forget that the Kohanim carry a DNA of Aharon HaKohen. What was Aharon HaKohen? Shalom. What was Cain and Hevel? Mahloket. So they carry the antidote in the neshama. That's why Kohanim in the Bet HaMikdash were allowed to wear shatnez. Outside of the Bet HaMikdash, not allowed. Let's continue. You know what was the real argument between Cain and Hevel? What's the priority in life? This world or the world to come? What's priority? Hevel says, like the Mishnah in Pirkei Avot says, this world is only a hallway. The ultimate goal is the world of spirituality. Torah, mitzvot, ma'asim tovim, godliness. So they made a deal. What was the deal? Hevel will pursue a spiritual life. Cain will pursue a materialistic life. But they also had another debate. Do you want olam hazeh or you want olam haba? You want this world or the world to come? Hevel says, of course, I want olam haba. I don't want olam hazeh. So what Cain used to say to Hevel? You are living in my land. Why? Because you said you wanted olam haba. You wanted spiritual life. Every place that Hevel will go, Cain will haunt him. Another debate was, yesh din beyesh dayan or en din ve'en dayan. Does the actions that I do carry a consequence, carry a judgment, or not? Hevel says, yeah. Every action brings a reaction. Cain says, I don't care the reaction. I want to have fun now. Oh, what's going to happen with my soul? Later, I don't care. This was the real deal of argument between Cain and Hevel. What's the priority in life? Materialistic life or spiritual life? Okay, fast forward. History Channel, 15 perashiyot after, or even more. When Yitro and Moshe meet in Perashat Yitro, Yitro sees that Moshe Rabbeinu is acting in a way that he did not believe that was conducive for the proper leadership of the Jewish people. It's a pasuk in the Perasha. What was Moshe Rabbeinu doing? Everybody was waiting to talk to Moshe Rabbeinu. So Yitro says to Moshe, Nabol tibol. You're going to burn out. If you're one person dealing with 3 million Jewish people, every matter you need to handle, you think it doesn't stress you? You don't think that it causes stress in people? Imagine there are 50 people waiting to speak to Moshe Rabbeinu. You are number 51. And suddenly, when it's your turn, they announce, God needs to talk to Moshe. Come back tomorrow. That was what Yitro saw. So what does Yitro say to Moshe? Yitro says to Moshe, I'm going to give you an advice. Okay? What advice? Start delegating. Every 50 people, every 100 people, every 1,000 people. Hadavar kashe, questions which require your intervention, you will deal with them. But simple matters, you want to ask Moshe Rabbeinu, Moshe, what time is mincha tonight? And Moshe Rabbeinu didn't mind this type of questions. Why? Because Moshe Rabbeinu saw a way of connecting to people. This was the kavanah of Moshe. But Yitro says, Moshe, it's important, but you don't develop a relationship by answering what time is mincha. You offer a tourist service. Somebody send me an email now. Rabbi, in 2.5 months, I'm coming to Miami. Can I know the ashgahot? I answer, welcome to Miami. A week before you come, send me an email with your WhatsApp, and I give you all the information. I'm not going to start typing an email now for something that's going to be 2.5 months, which is fine. We don't mind answering, but you need to prioritize. That's what Yitro says to Moshe. So, and the Torah says that Yitro says to Moshe the following: I will suggest you this idea. If God approves and you are able to handle it, you're going to be successful. We don't know what else happened afterwards. But the next pasuk says, Moshe did exactly as Yitro suggested. In this sentence, there is another tikkun now. What was the argument between Cain and Hevel? Judgment, judges, actions, reaction, consequences. What Yitro says to Moshe, appoint judges. ואתה תחזה מכל העם, אנשי חיל, ירא אלוקים שונא בשר. Seek proper judges. So the Rabino Ari says, through this suggestion of Yitro to Moshe, now he makes another tikkun to the sin of Cain. So tikkun number 1 was what? Giving Sipporah to Moshe, his daughter, which was the extra sister to Hevel. She said, remember 2,448 years ago, we had an argument with the extra girl? You're entitled. Take my firstborn daughter as a wife. Second round, the loss of the judges. What Cain says? Not judgment day. Not Tehiyat HaMetim. No spiritual consequence. I don't care. Now suddenly, Yitro says to Moshe, no. You need to have a bedin. You need to have the court. You need to have the hachamim. The hachamim, like we learned yesterday, they need to lead the nation. So far, so good, or too deep? So far, so good. I think it's clear, right? The Zohar Kadosh writes, and it says, a pasuk that says, Beheber HaKeni nifrad mikain. Hever, name of Yitro, Keni, name of Yitro, departed from Cain. Pasuk in the book of Shofetim. What does it mean, departed from Cain? Does it mean that he's a descendant? Technically speaking, yes, maybe. But why do you say the word separated? So it says the Zohar Kadosh, you know what's the meaning of separated? He became a Baal Teshuvah. And if a person becomes a Baal Teshuvah, even though the person may have been associated with Cain, the power of the Teshuvah is so great that HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave Yeter, or Hever, or Keni, a new identity. What's the new identity? Yitro. Yitro, that has the merit of the 10 Commandments in his perashah, and a perashah was added in the Sefer Torah. That's the word Yitro, Isom Lashon Yeter, an addition, and the perashah of the judges, that thanks to his father-in-law's suggestion, Moshe Rabbeinu was able to delegate and continue leading the Jewish people in the most beautiful way. And it says, how did Yitro was able to achieve so lofty goals? Can you imagine they telling you, oh, your neshama is tainted. You come from Yitro, from Cain. You from Cain. You're gone. You're done. But yet the Zohar Kadosh says no. Nitgayer. He became a convert. Now, why did he become a convert? Short answer. Because he understood God. First of all, Yitro is the one who holds the patent to Baruch Hashem. The first person in history who said Baruch Hashem was Yitro. Look in the parasha. Baruch Hashem, Asher Yisid Etchem. Pasuk. Baruch Hashem. Open the Chumash. Parashat Yitro. But what really activated Yitro? We mentioned two scenarios. The war against Amalek and the splitting of the Yam Suf. Now, why the splitting of the Yam Suf touched the heart of Yitro? Because Yitro remembered that a few years earlier, maybe 10 years, if not more, Paro gave a decree. What was the decree? Drown the boys in the water. What Yitro says? Midah keneged midah. Water. You threaten me with water, you pay the price with water. The price with water. Yitro says, wow. God could have selected all kinds of consequences. But did God do? Midah keneged midah. But even though everything that I'm saying is good, we're going to have a hiccup soon. There is a hiccup coming. There is a hiccup coming, says Rabino Ari. So far, the neshama of Cain, now from zero, he feels redeemed. My son-in-law, Moshe Rabbeinu, I have an extra parasha, I have my 10 commandments, I gave Moshe Rabbeinu a suggestion. So you know what happens now, says Rabbeinu Ari? The neshama of Cain feels that he is equal to the neshama of Hevel, to the neshama of Moshe Rabbeinu. So after all these magnificent things happened to Yitro, that neshama left Yitro. He went to look for a new customer. Korah. The famous Korah coming up in a few weeks is the sequel of today's class. Korah, the Kof of Korah is Cain. I can't reveal all the secrets. Just for you to understand how the Torah can be connected if we know the connectors. Now, Korah challenges Moshe. Since when Korah has the audacity of challenging Moshe? Korah says, I already made my tikkun of Cain. I did teshuvah. Yitro helped me. I'm a rehabilitated person. I'm a new neshama. Kol ha'edah kedoshim. Everybody's holy. We are all equal. Who? Sure, they can be alive because neshamot spread. Neshamot, especially neshamot of mega-sized neshamot. What does it mean? There are different levels of neshamot. There are neshamot of an average person. But there are neshamot of great people. When I say means great, I don't mean only great in the sense of that they were great people, but I mean big neshamot. Adam, Hava, Abraham, Ishak, Yaakov, Moshe, Aharon, Cain, Hevel, Noah, Korah. Korah, what happened with Korah's neshama after? He also found a new customer. Zimri ben Salu. And then Rabbi Akiva. But I'm not going to go so far, too much. I'm making you dizzy already. It's not my intention. But that's what the class of today says. Says that Yitro connected to a Kadosh Baruch Hu through the learning of Torah, of fulfillment of mitzvot, he was able to bring down godliness and repair some of the damage made before. That's the topic of tikkun. So the Zohar says that you don't need to be in the level of Yitro, Cain, Hevel, Moshe to achieve this goal. That's what the Zohar second part says. It says every Yehudi who wants to do teshuvah, the opportunity is given to him. Doesn't matter what happened yesterday. One of the great rabbis wrote this to one of the students, that the student wasn't feeling good of certain sins of the past. And the rabbi said that, I don't remember the name, but it was one of the Gedolim of the latter years from Israel. And it says to concentrate in the sins and excessive remorse because of sins is not healthy to the person from a spiritual perspective. Okay, you feel bad, I repeat. Let's say a person did certain averot, right? Okay, the person feels bad. The person has remorse. But if your life is going to be only remorsefulness, always remorseful, how good it is, the rabbi said, is dangerous. Because the Yetzer Hara blocks the person's potential by concentrating in the remorse and in the negativity. That's why, you like it? Hazak Baruch. Thank you for your approval. Yes, people get stuck with themselves. And that's why in the Selihot says, Umodeh ve'ozev yeruham. A person recognizes and says, you know what? I recognize I need to make a change. I need to shape up. I need to improve my behavior. That's on the proper pathway of teshuvah. But if you're going to say to yourself, I'm so bad, I'm so bad, I'm so bad, I'm so bad, what do you think you're going to start believing? That you're bad. Look what the Tanya says in the beginning. I understand that. When we do every day the Anna and we feel bad, Hazaku Baruch. I wish we feel bad. We ask, why don't we say Yeshem? I wish we feel bad when we say Anna. It's like one fellow, I believe he went to the Maimonides, to the Rambam, and asked the Rambam, I think was with him, I think it was Maimonides, not Nachmanides. And it says, I'm not sure if I need to say some of the words of Anna tomorrow. He said, why not? He says, because here says certain things, certain sins that I didn't do. Doesn't apply to me. So I think the answer given to him was, you need to know that when you pray, and this is what he says, you're not only praying for yourself, you're praying for your neshama. You're praying for your previous lives. You're praying for your wife. You're praying for your children. And you're praying for whoever doesn't pray. So once you have all of the above, can you really say that this sin doesn't apply to you? Do you know what you did 57 years ago? You don't remember because you were not around. You were not around 57 years ago. Were you? What about you 90 years ago? You 90? No. Each person according to their age. And this is believing in the concept that our neshamot are repeat customers. We are extensions of other neshamot that came to the world. So the aspect of neshamot being connected, etc., is alive and well in Judaism. And the Zohar continues and reinforces this concept of the gift that Bnei Israel and the world has. Teshuvah. Teshuvah was created before the creation of the world. You know, the Gemara writes, HaKadosh Baruch Hu Magdim Refuah Lamaka. God always provides the solution before the problem. So the Teshuvah is there. It's just a matter that a person says, okay, I'm going to take Teshuvah. Give me vitamin Teshuvah. It's available. There's no limit. There's not an allowance. Okay? It's not deductible. There is no copay. There is nothing for you to do. You come and take it like the Torah. Munahat lekol Israel. This is how a powerful message of the Zohar of today. I think I made you dizzy enough for today. I hope it was very clear. I think that for a switch of all the various topics that we have been learning in the past, today was a nice change. So we get to warm up to the beautiful messages coming through the Chok Le Israel. Shavua Tov, everybody. Baruch Adonai Le'olam. Amen be'amen. Rabbi Hananiah ben Akashia Omer,